Hello everyone. In this video we are going to talk about the structure of RBI Grade B examination. The RBI examination is divided into three phases: phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. While phase 1 is qualifying in nature, phase 2 and phase 3 are not so. The marks obtained in phase 2 and phase 3 are added together to arrive at your final rankings. So the final ranking is created out of 350 marks. In phase 1, there are 200 questions carrying 1 mark each. You get 2 hours to complete the paper. In 2016, the cutoff for general was 98.5 in phase 1. I have divided the syllabus of phase 1 into two major parts, which are aptitude and general awareness. The aptitude portion has been subdivided into 4 subsections, which are reasoning, quantitative aptitude, data interpretation and English. In reasoning, there are 60 questions. In quantitative aptitude and data interpretation combined, there are 30 questions. Normally, it has been seen that data interpretation has 10 questions. In English, there are 30 questions, and in general awareness, there are 80 questions. When it comes to phase 2, there are 3 papers of 100 marks each. Economic and social issues and FM are objective in nature, whereas English is descriptive in nature. What this means is that you have to type your answers on the computer screen, and so it is very important that you have good typing speed. The general cutoff in 2015 was 197. The cutoff for 2016 has not been declared yet. Phase 3 is the interview stage or the interview phase, wherein you meet a panel of 5 to 7 people and the interview goes on for 15 to 20 minutes. We will be talking about all these 3 phases in detail very shortly. Let's talk about phase 1 now. In phase 1, the first subsection is reasoning. In reasoning, every year 60 questions are asked, and normally 45 to 50 minutes are allocated to this section. The aim of giving out 45 to 50 minutes is not to complete all 60 questions, but to complete 35 to 40 questions and get maximum marks out of these questions. I will not be discussing all the areas under reasoning. I have picked out only the important ones in order to give as an example. The first one is Venn diagrams. In Venn diagrams, there might be a question like, all rivers are oceans. So the Venn diagram for this would be a smaller circle called rivers surrounded by a bigger circle called oceans. What this means is that all rivers, all areas of river belong to the bigger area, which is oceans. What this also means is that all oceans are not rivers. So points here which are part of the ocean are not belonging to rivers. This is how you go about with Venn diagrams. Similarly, the other important area is blood relations. Let's talk about blood relations. Let's take a very small example. A is the son of B and B is daughter of C. How we depict this is like this: A is the son of B, so A comes below B in the chain of blood relations, and B is again daughter of C, so B comes below C. What I will do now is define male and female separately. Let's define male as squares and female as circles. Because A is a son, so it's a male, so we put it in a box. Because B is a female, so we put it in a circle. This is how we make it easier to understand while we are doing the question. We'll be talking about all these areas in detail when we start with the program. Similarly, there are areas like linear arrangements or circular arrangements. These are puzzles. In circular arrangements, you may have a question where you are given 8 people sitting in a circle or in a circular table, and you have to arrange all those 8 people. In a linear arrangement, you will have a straight line and a number of people sitting in that straight line, and you have to find out who is sitting where. This is how you go about with reasoning. The next subsection is quantitative aptitude and data interpretation. There are 30 questions in both these areas combined, and normally people are willing to give about 30 minutes. Normally, there are 2 questions of data interpretation with 5 sub questions each. So, there are a total of 10 questions in DI and a total of 20 questions in quantitative aptitude. Some of the areas have been listed out below: time and work, ratio and proportion, races, speed, distance, time, boats and streams, averages, percentages, and different types of graphs in data interpretation. The syllabus is just like the syllabus of IBPS, SBI, and other exams like SSC, but the level of difficulty is way higher. So, if you're preparing for this exam, be ready to look out for other books which cover more difficult questions than covered in these other examinations. The next subsection that we have is English. There are a total of 30 questions in English, and normally 25 to 30 minutes are given out in this subsection. This year there were 2 comprehensions in 2016, 5 sub questions each, so there were a total of 10 questions in comprehension. Other important areas are areas like sentence correction, paragraph completion, fill in the blanks, rearrangement of sentences. Now, this subsection, rearrangement of sentences, is considered to be one of the most difficult ones. In rearrangement, there are 4 to 5 statements, and you have to rearrange these statements in order to make a understandable paragraph. Similarly, there are many other areas. Things not asked generally in English: idioms, phrases, antonyms, and synonyms are normally not asked in RBI exam. In comprehension, there might be antonym and synonym, but otherwise these questions are not asked in the examination. The next section that we have is general awareness. This is the most scoring section of phase 1. There are a total of 80 questions and 15 to 20 minutes are given out in this section. What normally people do and what I recommend is to divide these 15 to 20 minutes into 2 parts, to give about 10 minutes in first part and cover about 40 to 50 questions of general awareness. And at the end, because the stress levels are very high, so give out 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the examination and cover the remaining questions. What this does is increase the productivity in those last 5 to 10 minutes, where if you're doing quantitative questions or reasoning questions, you will find that you are not able to solve any of those questions in the last 5 to 10 minutes of the examination. These are some of the areas which are asked in general awareness: banking awareness, indices, appointments, committees, defense, schemes, sports and awards, important days. Static portion becomes important. About 10% of the questions, 8 to 10 questions, will be from the static portion. Books of these and other sources will be listed out later. Things not asked in the examination in general awareness in RBI, very important. Normally, it has been seen that questions related to science, physics, chemistry, biology are not asked in the examination. Similarly, polity and Indian constitution is not covered, and as asked in IBPS and other exams, computer and marketing is not at all asked in this examination. So, you can leave out these areas and focus on the above mentioned areas. Let's come to phase 2 now. In phase 2, the first paper is economic and social issues. It carries 100 marks. The number of questions vary year to year. In 2015, there were 5 markers, 2 markers as well as 1 markers, whereas in 2016 there were only 2 markers and 1 markers. So we don't know if RBI might change it next year as well. These are the important subtopics under economic and social issues. The first is Indian economy since independence. So Indian economy from 1947 to present needs to be covered. The book list will be available in other videos. Important government schemes which have been rolled out in the past 1 to 2 years, as well as some evergreen or very important schemes which were rolled out way long time ago but which are still continuing. Similarly, annually Union Budget and Economic Survey are released. This year there were no questions from this area, but we don't know because this area is very important and RBI may ask a lot of questions next year. So please do not ignore this area, try to cover it as soon as it comes out. Fourth, macroeconomics. In macroeconomics, the NCERT covers everything as to what you need to do in macroeconomics. Social issues of India, various issues like education, health, demographics, child labor, ethnic issues, religious issues, all these comes under social issues of India. The next part is Indian political system. Herein you need to do Lakshmikant, but the problem with this section is that this year there was only one direct question from Indian political system and last year there were 2 questions. So doing one entire Lakshmikant and getting 1 question or 2 questions of 1 marks each do not justify preparing for this area, but we cannot leave it out because we don't know if RBI may ask a lot of questions. The next part is international economic and other institutions. Institutions like WTO, IMF, World Bank, these are very important. So you need to cover all these areas. Next we'll talk about English and FM. The next section is English. English is the only descriptive paper in the entire examination. It carries 100 marks. The subsections or sub questions which are asked in English are essay, précis, comprehension, letter and report. Before the change of pattern, letter and report were also asked in the examination, but since 2015 we have seen that only essay, précis and comprehension have been asked. In essay you cannot decide how much marks, how much words are you going to write. Last year the essay was of 400 words, but this year it was only of 200 words. So we have to prepare a diverse set of essays ranging from 200 to 500 words. Similarly, in précis, it may range from 150 to 200 words. In comprehension, last year there was no comprehension, but this year one comprehension was asked and the paper was longer. So typing speed is now becoming important in English. Certain important points that you need to keep in mind before you start preparing for English. Number one, structure of essay and précis is very important. So once you write an essay, do not try to write an article. Instead, try to stick to a standard structure and write standard and conventional type of essays. Secondly, writing style becomes very important. It is not only about your content and about the facts and figures that you give, it's also about your power of expression that plays a role in English. Thirdly, grammar becomes important, and fourthly, the ability to put forward your argument. It's not only that you have good thoughts, it's also how you put them forward. You can see sample essays in my blog and also available on the group. Now let's talk about finance and management. This is indeed the most important and the most troubling part of the examination. First of all, let's cover the theoretical part of finance. I have divided the theoretical part into these subsections: regulators in India, Indian financial system, then Indian banking system, then risk management and corporate governance. There are certain other areas as well, The entire list and sub-list is available on the blog. You can cover these areas very easily with standard text that are available in the market. I have also mentioned the books that you can cover in order to do away with this area. Second is management. In management, the broad classification is organization behavior, organization theory, and HRM. It has been seen lately that RBI is not only relying on the important theories relating to all these classifications, but is also getting into unimportant and rather difficult theories. So, we will be covering all possible theories subject to these areas. I will be also putting up certain sample material related to management on the blog shortly. The third and the most important section in finance and management is the practical portion. Now, let us be very clear that practical portion is not at all listed in the syllabus in the examination. So, we do not know what you are preparing is going to strike in the examination or not. But based upon the pattern that RBI is following, let me break it down. In 2015, NPV, IRRs, and ratios, these three areas were covered in the examination. In 2016, we had questions from leverage as well, in addition to these three areas, and one question from management accounting related to break even point. So, we are seeing that more questions from this classification of books are being asked. Now, next year, what we expect is a more in depth analysis and questions from derivatives, cost of capital, one of these three: capital budgeting, dividend, and working capital. We don't expect questions of all three, but one of these three should be asked. So, it's only wise to prepare all the areas so that we're well prepared to deal with anything that comes in the examination. Let's come to the last section now, which is the interview, and in fact the most important part of the entire examination. Why? In phase 2, the total breakup is 300 marks, and normally the student topping gets 70 to 75% marks, which is 210 to 215. Whereas in phase 3, the breakup is 50 marks, the maximum marks, and the student getting highest marks get 90 to 92%, which is very high, which comes down to 45 to 46 marks. Now, this becomes the deciding factor in your name in the list or name out of the list because of the percentage of marks that you can get in the interview stage. Let's come to what all areas you need to cover in the interview. An average interview is 15 to 20 minutes, 50 marks as I said allocated. The first area is Indian economy. This will be covered in phase 2 as well. Second is Indian financial and banking system. You need to cover this in a little different way in order to be able to answer the questions well. And biodata form, very important. Your hobbies, your co-curricular activities, you should be very well versed with whatever you've written. A very simple question as to why do you wish to join RBI becomes very important. There should be a purpose and a vision behind your joining the organization. Areas, answers like work-life balance or pay sound very naive to these people. So, it's very important that you come out with relevant answers to this question. Next is current issues. They can ask anything related to current issues, areas like Uri attack, Indus Water Treaty, or India-Pakistan relations, which are going on recently, or anything which is in news can be asked. Few important pointers. Number one, focus on keywords. The RBI panel does not expect you to talk about anything at length. They want you to talk in keywords and give them what they need. Your answers should be short and precise. Don't be very long with your answers, one and the same thing. Do not be stressed personality. If you have a good personality, if you are very calm, you are sure to get 35 to 38 marks, which is the average. Whereas if your answers are good, but your personality does not match with what they want, then you might get only 70 marks, 30 marks, or 25 marks, 25 to 30 marks. So it's very important that you have a very calm, composed, and a very mature personality.